Thanks. Uh, Basically, what I have to like note first is that we are sorry that we cannot show you as much as you guys did. Our builds are like massively huge, and our Wise structure is also massively huge. So what you saw is just a small excerpt of the project. Basically, we have more than 38,000 files in it, so it would be a bit of a pickle to show you here. But starting off, the combat approach. So, starting with artistic choices, we tried to do it very handcrafted. Like when we started, we knew that Geralt is primarily a monster hunter, so combat is going to be a part of the world. And it's going to be the huge part of the world, and we cannot do it in a not detailed way. So we put loads of attention of getting the weapons sounds right. We aimed for a very fast-paced feeling when you fight in Witcher. You should feel that it's more or less a dance between the monster hunter and the monsters, and of course in general in combat situations. Also, when we started to develop the sounds for The Witcher, it turned out that in real life swords don't sound cool at all. So basically, it gave us the first impression that we always should aim for a dirty sound, an edgy sound in the mix. Maybe twist it a bit so it's not so polished on and like even fantasy like. So this all ideas that we had to come into one thing. So combat is believable, and that's basically what we're always tried to achieve. Hopefully we did. Please provide us feedback later on. Moving on from artistic choices, how we approached it in Wise. So basically, you have a hierarchy of switches. So it's so cool to see that we use switches as you guys did for the breathing stuff, but we did it in a different way. Our approach to switches and to combat was to simplify it, to create one global event that will be applied to all the animations, and then the system will decide what is happening where and what should hit what. The basic assumptions for what we started with is the weapon type. So you gotta know with what you hit your opponent, right? So that's the first and the easiest hint. Then you gotta know with with which weapon you hit what. So you got your weapon, now you have to have the information, what do you hit, right? Pretty self-explanatory. For some weapons, we did use the size option just to have a different feeling for a small axe or a big axe or a hammer. For loads of weapons, we didn't use that much, but it landed in the system. Also, for additionals, we did differentiate in some circumstances where do you hit the guy. So it means to us a great deal that you hit him in the head while he's like having a helmet. So he should produce a different sound than hitting while he would be hit in the body, right? So basically, you have the bare bones of our combat system. You can see those switches right here. So you have the first list of weapons, and then armor types, a bit of a different approach here because you have monster sounds as well. One thing, I'm just gonna go back, like for the purpose of this presentation, we cannot show you the monsters because those are as well a weapon type, but they're outside of this presentation. Like it would be time consuming way more. So pretty self-explanatory as well. So weapon sizes, large, medium, small. It's only for axes or hammers. And then let me just go into Wise and show you how it looks like. Again, this is a small excerpt. We had the idea to clean up all the stuff that we did, but we found out that it's better to show you a raw project. So what you see here is, like I told you, like a systemic approach of hierarchy of switches. So you can see here like different weapons, and sometimes you can see stuff that actually is a byproduct of how The Witcher is how the of the size of the game. So we had to react on some special cases. Therefore, you see like strange stuff sometimes in here, like empty. Uh, so basically, hammer. So what I told you, you start with the weapon size, and you start with the weapon type. Sorry. Then you go to weapon size. You always set the specific stuff for the weapons, and then you have the structure, how it looks like down below. So it all goes down, right? And then you can have like attack type, which is a thud or a stab in, but that's more for swords and weapons like that. For instance, you have the blade here, and here, so you can note the difference, like the subtle difference between the size of the weapon. So you have the head, and you have the more growly, more body sounds. On this system, it might not be so precise, but when you compare the sizes of the weapons, so you have the size, immediate response from how big the weapon is. And there goes your dynamics. So basically, this is a simple system that allowed us to do loads of assets in the game. Our approach was, like I told you before, to have it handcrafted, detailed, and like massive in terms of how much content do you have. Like we really wanted you to have tons of stuff in there. So you have the division for each and every weapon for flesh, leather, and chain. In terms of human combat situations, and then you have the special stuff for the monsters as well. So we have very different situations in which you can actually hit stone. For the collisions, we simplified the system greatly, and we found out basically that you can collision your sword only with 2 surfaces. So we kind of went outside the system and simplified it. Remember that for such a huge game, your approach should be basically to keep it global, to simplify it, and to make the debugging as simple as possible. That's why, like, I'm very surprised that we use the same tools, but for different purposes, and it's so cool. It's really so cool. Okay, so basically, we have our rundown after combat. Going on to monsters. Like 67, try 67, including the expansion packs like Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone. So again, like, what was our approach? If you have The Witcher, you know you're going to get a detailed and aggressive sound. It's sometimes a bit even garagey, but we had an interesting conversation that there are different levels of garage sound. We always found that Witcher is a bit like raw. It's not mixed, it's not beautiful, it is mixed, but it's not mixed in a polished way you would expect out of Hollywood production, right? Again, we aimed for well-suited monsters in the environment. It has to be believable, it has to live in the world, so thus you have a more animalish approach than you would normally have. We tried to trigger our designs closely to what Witcher is. It's a monster hunter, and he hunts in an environment. So you cannot like do those stuff separately. It has to be connected together. Of course, you have to have plenty of variations, not repetition in itself. And again, it all goes down to one word: believable. So a basic structure, it's that you for most of the monsters we are using for combat situations the global combat approach. So the hits are on on a dedicated type of switch that we just skipped. If you want to know more about it, please feel free to pop later on. Maybe we are gonna find some time. So basically, you have your monster, you have your grunts, because it has to produce sound, right? Then you have your custom attacks, and then what is special here, for every monster out of Witcher 3 base game, we had to do focus mode. Because Witcher is a monster hunter, monster slayer, so we put loads of emphasis on making that functionality really, really interesting. Then again, you have to have dedicated foley for the monsters. So if you see a giant monster like Leshen, you know that it's connected to some sort of elements in environment that are very, very characteristic for this monster. And for performance issues and mixing tactics, we used also custom sounds, which might be copied from the base game for the cutscenes and scenes, just to treat those a bit differently and not to have a huge mess while playing. So moving on, just to show you like how the monster side looks like. So you all you can see is the huge structure here. So everything is packed, everything is clean, and everything is detailed as much as we could. If you're gonna go to details, that's the thing what I told you about. So that's combat situations, that's dialogue, there's movement, there's voice, and there are different types of voices that we need. So we took our time and tried to like make it really, really asset intensive, and probably this guy doesn't like us because we used all of our memory like right away. So you can probably see like and have an idea of what we're aiming for, just to show you some cool stuff. You can like choose. You have short laughs, long laughs, and you have mounting stuff for Witcher. And you, of course, sorry for the loudness. It's not mixed for like being separate. It sits right in the mix. But then again, like what I told you, every and each monster, if you're gonna go very, very high and low, very, very low in the structure, you're gonna see like tons of variations. We tried to do really, really handcrafted approach. Hopefully it can be seen, like each and every monster has loads of sounds in it. Of course, as a base functionality, we use random containers. We try to change the pitch. We try to do something different for the volume as well. So those are your basic suspects.